Welcome to UK Rail Journeys, Series 2. In this series I follow the original route of the Thames Clyde Express from London to Glasgow, and then visit Wemyss Bay and Mallaig before returning to London on the Caledonian Sleeper. Episode 6, On to Sheffield. In this episode I continue my journey on the East Midlands Railway service that runs from Norwich to Liverpool Lime Street. We go through Ilkeston station, which opened on the 2nd of April 2017. In 2009 the town had become one of the largest towns in England, with a passenger railway line passing through it, but no railway station to service it. The 3 previous railway stations had all closed in the 1950s and 1960s. Ilkeston town station had been demolished a long while earlier to make way for a Tesco supermarket, and Ilkeston North station had been replaced by a police station. The site of Ilkeston Junction station had been used as a scrapyard, making it a wasteland. In 2022-23, the new station was used by 127,000 passengers. Very quickly we come to one end of the disused Bennerley Viaduct, which we pass under. It was built by the Great Northern Railway in 1877 and is known to many as the Iron Giant. It was built with both wrought and cast iron components, which were made in Derby. These were transported to the site, and over 500,000 rivets were used to fit the pieces together. A brick viaduct couldn't be built because the valley is honeycombed with extensive mine workings. The viaduct closed to traffic in 1968, and more recently the Friends of Bennerley Viaduct have converted its quarter-mile length into a public footpath. We continue through Langley Mill Station and past the Cromford Canal. We reach the twin junctions of Codnor Park and Pye Bridge, which form a Y in the railway. This junction gives access to the Midland Railway Centre Preserved Railway. 3 of the line's signal boxes and 1 of the stations came from the route of the Thames Clyde Express. The station buildings at Swanwick came from the village of Syston. The signal box at Swanwick, originally built in 1913 and housing a 44-lever frame, came from Kettering Station. The former Kilby Bridge controls, the terminus and the signal box at Butterley was formerly at Askill, the summit of the Settle Carlisle line. As we travel along through the countryside, it's very wooded close to the track. Impossible to take any photographs. Someone really has gone to town planting trees in all the places where I'd like to get a view of the scenery. Of course, the lovely thing about all the trees that we're passing at the moment, because it's in the 2nd week of May, is the colours of green that they are in their spring freshness. I think the greens of the trees at this time of year are far nicer than at any other time of the year. We've passed the site of yet another closed station at Pye Bridge, over the junction that takes trains to Kirby and Ashfield and into the Alfreton Tunnel, which was built in 1901 when the railway tracks were quadrupled. It's said that during the building of the tunnel, the engineers dug through a coal seam that was good enough to fire their winding machines. And now to our stop at Alfreton Station. We're now 2/3 of the way between Nottingham and Chesterfield. Alfreton Station is not a station with any architectural merit at all. Basically a grey prefab. The Midland Railway opened the station at Alfreton on the 1st of May 1862. British Railways closed the station to passengers on the 2nd of January 1967 due to the Beeching Acts. The buildings and the platforms were demolished. It reopened on the 7th of May 1973 as Alfreton and Mansfield Parkway. When the Robin Hood line reopened in 1995, the station at Mansfield also reopened, and Alfreton Station reverted to its original name. In 2022-23, 290,000 passengers used the station. Just north of the station, on the left-hand side as you're travelling north, we pass fields of solar panels.
Calling Chesterfield, Sheffield, Stockport, Manchester, Kelly, Manchester on the road, and finally Liverpool High Street. Kindly note this afternoon, this train does not call, I repeat, does not call at Warrington Central, Witness, or Liverpool South Parkway. After Manchester, Oxford Road, the next station called then will be Liverpool High Street.
We pass over Claycross Junction where we meet the line from Derby. In past times there was an important engine shed at Hasland, which is where the Chesterfield built-up area starts. The shed housed 60 engines, including the massive Bayer Garrett locomotives, which were built to haul heavy coal trains. They were built by Bayer Peacock in Gorton in Manchester. These articulated locomotives had 2 power units and a central boiler. They could haul a 1,450-ton train for over 100 miles at an average speed of 21 miles an hour. And when returning with empty wagons, they could reach 50 miles an hour with a rake of 100 trucks. It's very interesting that for a large part of this part of the journey, we seem to be running through cuttings. They must have dug out an awful lot of spoil whilst building this part of the railway. There's quite a build-up of grey cloud as we're travelling north, all the way to Nottingham. It was beautiful and sunny. Now it's looking less and less sunny.
Arriving into Chesterfield.
Chesterfield's known for its twisted church spire. It's also the burial place of George Stephenson. The spire, built around 1360, used a wooden frame of unseasoned wood covered with lead tiles. As the wood dried out, or seasoned, the spire twisted. Of course, folklore gives other reasons, such as the devil twisted the spire when a virgin bride was married in the church, and said that he would only twist it back after the next virginal marriage. It remains twisted to this day. Outside Chesterfield Station is a statue to George Stephenson, the father of the railways. He balances on the flanges of a wheel and is holding a model of the famous locomotion number 1. In 2025 we celebrate 200 years since Stephenson built the world's first passenger railway between Stockton and Darlington. Stephenson came to Chesterfield to oversee the building of the North Midland Railway. He spent his last 10 years at Tapton House, growing exotic plants and vegetables. An obsession of his was growing straight cucumbers, and he had a glass cucumber straightener made in one of his factories. When Stevenson died in 1848, it was suggested that he should be buried in Westminster Abbey. However, his last wish was to lie next to his beloved wife Elizabeth in Holy Trinity Church in Chesterfield. There is a simple tablet on the south wall of the chancel of the church and a stained glass window to celebrate his life. Just to the north of Chesterfield Station, we take the left fork at Tapton Junction onto what is known as the New Road. The old road curves away to our right. This was the original main line along the Rother Valley and avoiding the difficult country around Sheffield. When in 1870 the Chesterfield to Sheffield line opened, most passenger trains took the new route via the Steel City. It would appear that the clouds were mainly round Chesterfield, as they've broken up a bit and the sun has now come out and is shining through the window of the train. The A61 road is now running just to the left of us. This major trunk road runs from Derby to Thirsk in North Yorkshire and passes through Alfreton, Claycross, Chesterfield, Sheffield, Barnsley, Wakefield, Leeds, Harrogate and Ripon. The route from Alfreton runs through the same country as my train journey. Many years ago, when I lived in Wakefield, the A61 was at the end of the lane where I lived. We passed through Dronfield Station, which opened with this line on Monday the 2nd of February 1870. The station is on a long climb up the Drone Valley to the 1 mile, 266 yard long Bradway Tunnel. The gradient steepens from 1 in 201 to 1 in 102. The station has had a checkered life. It closed in January 1967. Reopened for 4 days in February 1979 because of heavy snow which had blocked roads in the area, and then properly reopened in January 1981. 162,000 passengers used the station in 2022-23. After passing through the station, we pass a small park with what appears to be an ornamental stone arch. This was the entrance to Edward Lucas's foundry, opened in 1790. It produced spindles and flyers for the cotton industry and cast-iron cannonballs during the Napoleonic Wars. After 181 years, it closed in 1971. We emerged from the Bradway Tunnel into the leafy suburb of Dore. Here we follow the River Sheaf. This leafy valley was once a violent borderland separating the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of Mercia and Northumbria. King Eanred of Northumbria and King Egbert of Wessex signed the Treaty of Dore, which subjugated Northumbria to Egbert, making Egbert the overlord of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of England. We have now crossed the border from the Midlands to Yorkshire. We pass through Dore and Totley Station, 4 3/4 miles from Sheffield. The station is served by northern services between Sheffield and Manchester. The East Midlands Railway service runs between Liverpool and Norwich, and I'm on that train at this moment. The Trans-Pennine Express service between Manchester and Cleethorpes, all running on the Hope Valley line across the Pennines. I once took the Liverpool to Norwich service to visit some friends in Norfolk. When the train arrived at Manchester Piccadilly from Liverpool, nearly everyone got off. When we got to Sheffield, the same happened. When we got to Derby, the same happened again. It seems that very few travel the whole distance, but there are very important sections to a lot of people on that route. As we approach Sheffield, the valley is widening out. We run along an embankment and we can enjoy a view of a council depot with a huge igloo-shaped road grit store. We pass the back gardens of slate-roofed Victorian houses and shops. And finally, after the short East Bank tunnel, we're joined by the tracks of the Sheffield Supertram system, carried on a modern viaduct. And we then arrive at Sheffield Midlands Station, awarded 3 stars by Simon Jenkins. I'm now outside what they call today Sheffield Station. It used to be Sheffield Midlands Station because there were a number of stations here in Sheffield. It's another arched facade, giving on to a porte cochere and then into the main buildings. The weather today is nice and warm, but with a nice gentle breeze, cooling everybody. And I'm stood beside an amazing wall of water. The water flows down a steel facade because, of course, Sheffield is Steel City. Sheffield brings me to the end of the first day of my journey following the route of the Thames Clyde Express. My thanks to East Midlands Railways for their assistance on my 3 train journeys bringing me from St Pancras to Sheffield. Now I'm going to go to my hotel, the Premier Inn at St Mary's Gate. It's about 15 minutes from here. Well, it should be, as long as I don't get as lost as I did last time I was visiting Sheffield. I think this evening a meal at El Paso, a Mexican-Italian restaurant near the hotel, and then an early night. This podcast is produced and published by the Mr. T Podcast Studio. Thank you very much for listening. And please join me again in a couple of weeks for the next instalment